Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam represent Krishna's words and words about Krishna. We'll see a slide about that in just a moment. There's this topic. Gita values and Bhagavatam values are the same. The relationship between the two is Bhagavad Gita is the undergraduate, the Bhagavatam is the graduate study of everything, of the encyclopedia of spiritual knowledge, as is the whole Vedas. A lot to say on that, but that's the background. And so that we can appreciate the topic and how it is relatable to our lives. Spiritual culture and its values, there's an image that people that are involved in the secular world, what's called cultural engineering. Some group of people, a corporation, to engineer the culture of the corporation from where it was to where they want it to go, or otherwise, an organization, a nation, or whatever, a group of people. So we're a group of people, we're Hare Krishna people. And so this metaphor of an iceberg applies, the iceberg of culture. And as we well know, an iceberg has the surface, the part of the big block of ice that you see above the surface of the water, and then this vast, unseen portion, because it's below the surface of the water, part of the iceberg. So that's where this metaphor of culture comes. There's the part that you see, the visible behavior, norms, measurable things that people do and say, and their language and their culture and their architecture and their music and the externals of a culture. That's the tip of the iceberg. And below that is stated values. They say whatever it is, the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, or for a group it's their mission statement, or their some explicit stated set of values that this group of people stand by. And they stand by, and ideally they live by what they stand by. Their values drive their behaviors. And so one of the ways to do cultural engineering is you try to adjust behaviors, but you can't do that very readily without addressing values. So one interacts with the other, in short. And then below the stated values are the unstated truths of life, realities of life, unchangeable, not moved by time and circumstance, kinds of just absolute realities of life. And for the Hare Krishna group of people, we want to get down here, but we also have to pay attention to here and here. So down here is, let's just say, according to Rupa Goswami, not only we're spirit soul, because Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita, that's who we are, but as spirit soul, we're part of the supreme personality of Godhead, we're his expansion meant for his service. So an unchangeable, non-circumstantial reality is we are entities that are parts of the Supreme, meant for service to the Supreme. Love for Krishna is inherently within. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kavano Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte Karye Yudvai. Krishna Prema is already inside, it just needs to be brought out. And there are behaviors and values that can help bring it out. But it's already there. It's not something you have to go to Walmart, Kmart, or Target and buy some. It's already there. already inside. And spiritual culture, the iceberg of spiritual culture is to look at how values help us. When values and behaviors align with that higher spiritual reality, that higher spiritual reality can become awakened and fully realized in this lifetime. Then there's a difference between, this is next to the last, just introductory, framing our topic kind of message. There's a distinction between information and knowledge as it's understood in Bhagavad Gita. There's information, let's just say, information, I'm spirit soul, and I can think about it and contemplate it and accept it. Let's just say everybody here accepts we are a spirit soul, and the verses of Bhagavad Gita confirm it. That is, the body is like a garment, and when the garment becomes tattered and old and useless, we discard the garment and get another garment. Just like changing garments, we're also changing bodies from one body to the next body, just as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. It's very sensible. Dehinosmin yata dehi komaram yovanam jara tatate hantara praptir dhirascha. So dhira, those who are sober, wise, thoughtful, they can understand the body is changing and there's the unchanging self within. So we discussed this a little bit yesterday. Samadarshana, one of the values of Bhagavad Gita is we're spirit soul. So we agree that we're spirit soul. Then the next question is, how much are we living our lives accordingly? Or there's a difference between information and wisdom. We spent some time yesterday. Wisdom literature in the world today goes back to ancient times in all cultures, and wisdom is very similar to other wisdom in various cultures. That's what I have found. Because wisdom is coming from people who not only have information, but they have practical understanding. Like Prabhupada would refer to Socrates. Socrates, Greek, he was told, oh, you profess that you're the soul, not the body. Then here's some hemlock poison, drink it. So he drank the hemlock poison. Fearless, not like, he was too powerful to execute him. He was a threat to the powers that be at the time, for whatever the reason. And so you're teaching something that we don't accept. So you believe your teachings, here's some hemlock poison, drink it. He drank it. This is interesting description in detail. He describes to his students who are sitting there watching him drink the hemlock nectar, what he's feeling in his body, and he's losing sensation in his body going from his feet up and then kaput. But he's the observer of the body, he's not the body. Anyway, if you want to kill me, first you have to catch me, was his words. So, there's knowledge like Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 8 through 12. It's Krishna's answer to Arjuna's question, what's knowledge? And it's a long list of items, and it's all qualities. Study it, I invite you. It's qualities. And because one who has knowledge has qualities. And one who has qualities, you can understand they have knowledge. But it's not just information kind, it's real knowledge, the knowledge that you are and live by. So that's what Gita values is addressing, besides the information aspect of knowing something. Or not the body. How do you live your life in practical terms? That's chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita. What does it look like? How do you tell someone who is, by what symptoms are they to be known? So then, finally, there's this big gap between where we are and where we want to be, this place of wisdom or knowledge or the values of the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And it's like wonderful stories, but I'm way over here. And there's this big gap between where I am. So, limen is, it's a nice word because it's not used so often. It's a Latin word that means, it has the inference of the import of the word is some space in between one thing and another thing. Like, for example, in all homes, there's the porch, or there's the outside, and then there's this little strip of wood where the front door is, and that strip of wood is called the limen. It's a carpentry term, or an architectural term. It's a liminal space. And then there's the inside, where you receive your guests. A place to put the shoes and this and that and the other thing. So, in between this and that, so people that are involved in cultural engineering or corporate engineering or restructuring or any of those modern words, they know this term limen. It's in between where you are today, where you want to be tomorrow. I don't know how common it is, but to some degree it's common. So that liminal space is what we're talking about. It's where we want to be. The values to help get us to the place we want to be, which is connected with Krishna. Again, or reviving our forgotten relationship with Krishna. And it's not to be a point of discouragement, oh, I'm not there yet. There's this discomfort commonly going from where you are to where you want to go. It's the transformation or transition or moving from your comfort zone to a more desirable space. It takes some effort, it takes some patience, it takes some determination, it takes some support. And Bhagavad Gita gives us, and Srimad Bhagavatam give us a nice understanding of these topics. So that's the background. And it says value 3, but it's actually value 2. So yesterday we discussed Samadarshana, then comes Ahimsa, or non-violence. So what's going to happen, I'm going to do the professor thing, and then after I do the professor thing, the teacher will teach. You have a facilitator that will take you through some exercises. And some of you who attended the Gita Nagari retreat, the last 2 of them, they were on the topic of empathic communication. So you'll find some elements from those 2 seminars in this presentation. I hope you're caught what I just said. There's some symmetry between messages that you've heard before and what you're going to hear this evening. And it's purposeful. It's to help support something that we've heard and heard it again and heard it again and heard it again and now I get it. Because it's important to have our values aligned with our goals, to have our behaviors and our values, the body, the mind, and the heart aligned with your goals of life. Alignment is really important, so that's what we're doing. Attempting anyway. In the history of human society, there's lots of histories of violence. And the same is true in modern times. What it looks like, different, but it's not an uncommon, a new thing. Violence is very common within world history. So why does violence happen? Once upon a time I was a teenager, like all the rest of us. And one of the things that I went through as a teenager was this existential dilemma about this. And my thought process was, everyone wants to love and be loved. Why are people so harsh and cruel to each other? And I didn't get an answer. And I went to a priest, and he said, I think you need a psychiatrist. Oh, man. I'm not joking. I mean, I wasn't looking over the edge of a cliff. I was just like asking a question. And then, there was some emotion connected with that reality, but anyway. Then there's another question. This violence thing, how is it related to or not related to equal vision? There's a sequence from equal vision to nonviolence or compassion. Both violence or nonviolence, they can happen at every level. There's physical, there's verbal, and there's emotional. You're going to remember, please remember these three, because we're going to see some Bhagavatam examples of them and the resolution of them through the values of Srimad Bhagavatam. Please take note. It's practical. It's out there in the world, and it happens. Here's, for example, here's Suruchi. Suruchi is this lady over here. That's the queen of Uttanapada, and Uttanapada had 2 sons and 2 queens. This was the younger queen, and the younger queen, Suruchi, had the second son. His name was Anupam. And when Anupam was seated on the lap of his father, naturally another little boy, Dhruva, wanted to sit on his lap too. And Suruchi said some really nasty things. Some nasty things that even a little boy probably couldn't understand. But, she was verbally violent. And then Uttanapada, because he was partial to his younger queen, more beautiful and more this and that, so he didn't say anything. Dhruva turned to his father, who remained mum, who remained silent and didn't offer any kind of solace or protection or any rebuke or anything. And then Suruchi not only said some nasty things, but all of her body language was also very harsh and hurtful, purposefully. It was very mean. So, what did Dhruva do? He went to his mother, Suniti. And Suniti asked him, "You're crying, what's wrong? What happened?" And he blurted it all out between his tears and his sobs and everything. And she said, "I don't think there's anything I can do to help you. The reason I'm not in the palace, I'm way over here, is because your father just doesn't care for me. I'm neglected. I really don't have any influence to do anything to help you. But if you really want some help, Lord Vishnu, he's capable of doing anything." Dhruva was in this angry mood. He wanted not just to get on his father's lap and take over the kingdom because he was rightfully the heir of the throne when he grew up, the eldest son of the king. He wanted a kingdom better than his father, and better than his father's father, and better than his father's father's father. He was really a ramped up Kshatriya. So, he went to find Vishnu. But violence, this is very early in Satya Yuga, very early. Uttanapada was the direct son of Swayambhuva Manu, who was going to become the next king, Guru. So, just a little sharing. Some of you, I understand, there's a like a really nice program here, as well as in Chicago. I got a little report from both places. A whole large number of devotees in the community reading Srimad Bhagavatam every day in honor of Bhadra Purnima, correct? 40 people, something like that?
35, yeah.
35, okay. So, please share with us, from Srimad Bhagavatam, do you recollect any further examples of verbal, physical, or emotional violence? Yes, I see one hand up. Kirti. Daksha, say the whole thing, little.
Daksha is dealing with his daughter.
Great.
Sati.
Yeah, Sati, yeah. Balaram.
That was exactly.
That was the one. Yes.
Hiranyakashipu with Prahlad.
Hiranyakashipu with Prahlad.
Daksha insulting Narada when he
Daksha
converted his
insulting
sons.
Narada.
Chitraketu's wife's poisoning his son.
That was certainly violence. That was definitely violence. That wasn't verbal. It was physical violence. Yeah.
Duryodhana insulting Vidura.
Duryodhana insulting, yes, verbal.
Draupadi. Draupadi's incident in the
Draupadi.
Being insulted in the Kauravas. I forget the name.
Assembly.
In the assembly of Kauravas.
Dushasana? Okay. Dushasana's behavior with Draupadi. Trying to disrobe Draupadi in the public assembly. There's many. Go ahead, one more. Shishupal. Ooh. Okay. It's not a new thing. And so, how did different people deal with those circumstances? Bhagavatam teaches us ways different exalted devotees dealt with those things. So, just a general, common, worldly definition of non-violence or ahimsa. This is Buddha, because this is certainly like a cornerstone of his teaching. Act in a way that causes the least harm. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. The way that before I learned Bhagavad Gita or anything like that, just the phrase that I tried to live by was, if you can live in the world in such a way it causes less pain and suffering to others, that's a better way to live. And we have choices, and if I don't have to, just breathing, drinking water and moving about and eating and just having a body means other living entities are sacrificing for your existence. But if there's a way to live in such a way it's less suffering for others, that's better. Very simple. And that's this nonviolence principle. Now, Bhagavad Gita expresses it a little differently, which is nice, refreshing. Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body, but actually non-violence means to not put others and myself included, in distress. This is Prabhupada's explanation of Ahimsa from chapter 13, Bhagavad Gita. Not put others in distress. Not just destroying the body. Now, what's the cause of distress, or what's the cause of suffering? This is very important in understanding the non-violence principle. What's the root cause of suffering? If you're Buddhist, it's desire, and if you're a follower of the Vedas, the root cause of suffering is ignorance. We heard it on Sunday, those of you who were there on Sunday. According to Kunti, there are different people who have an explanation of why the unborn takes birth. Remember that? And the final one was, he appears for the sake of the people in this world who are suffering and who isn't. And the relief of the suffering is to relieve them of ignorance. And here's the pattern. It's right in her verse. From avidya, from ignorance, comes ignorant desire, kama. From ignorant desire comes ignorant activity, karma vihi. And from ignorant activity comes suffering. So the Supreme Lord appears to relieve people of their ignorance, so it can relieve them of ignorant desire, can relieve them of ignorant activity, can relieve them of suffering. Real nonviolence means to relieve people of ignorance. And unfortunately, many people are in ignorance. There's another image of the ostrich sticking his head in the sand, but here's people imitating the ostrich, sticking their head in the sand. Prabhupada writes, people in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer. Ignorance, ignorant desire, ignorant activity, suffering due to ignorance. From a different part of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, many times people don't know what actually benefits them and what is beneficial for human society in general. You know, the thought is to adjust the externals, and then you get happiness, or you get less distress. But that's not necessarily true. It doesn't work that way, because there's below the tip of the iceberg, there's many other things going on. So real nonviolence is to give knowledge. Spiritual ignorance alienates people. It's the foundation for violence at any level. Say it in reverse. Spiritual illumination is the solution to people's suffering at all levels, or violence or non-violence at all levels. Spiritual realization. Again, Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, Prabhupada writes, the human body is meant for spiritual realization, so any movement or commissions which do not further that end commit violence on the human body. That which furthers the future spiritual happiness of the people in general is called nonviolence. So here's a little example. It's a really simple one. Supposing I'm a medical doctor and I finish my job at the hospital and I'm walking along the sidewalk. I get my little black bag with all my medical things in it, and I walk along and see on the sidewalk somebody who's hemorrhaging and flailing around and groaning and wailing in pain. Hey, I'm off duty. I'm just going home. See you later. Now, if I have the capacity to relieve that person of their suffering and I don't do anything, that's a form of violence. Similarly, we have in our little black bag, or in our book bag, we have knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and it has the potential of relieving people of ignorance. So we need to administer it. You know, part of our so many roles and duties in life includes that one. It's a responsible way of conducting. It's a life of nonviolence. And one who does that is living a life of nonviolence. So part of it is just you model what a life of nonviolence is. You teach by your example and your words. How you speak, nonviolent speech. It's right in Bhagavad Gita. Austerity of speech, 17:15 Bhagavad Gita. It's that life, it's how a devotee lives their life. But it's that the foundation of it is spiritual knowledge, spiritual wisdom, not just information. From the Bhagavatam, real nonviolence means freedom from envy. In this world, everyone is envious of his fellow being. Canto 1. Over there on the left, one of the examples was Hiranyakashipu dealing with his son Prahlad in a pretty violent way. And over here on the other side is Prahlad, who had no envy, and so there was no violence. But he was fully protected by the personality of Godhead. Now this is our facilitator's function coming up. You got the microphone?
Hare Krishna. So we are going to build up on the exercise we did yesterday. Repeat for whoever was not there. So think of a situation in your life where you felt non-acceptance of yourself or others. Basically, we start with ourselves first. Think of a situation where we are not able to accept ourselves and the way, how, we reacted to the situation. Okay?
It's not clear.
So think of a challenging situation, like for example, you plan yourself to get up early and chant, but you somehow end up, getting up late, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You're challenged, right? So like that, think of a situation that you're not able to accept yourself. Or think of a situation where you, did some mistake, and then you realize that you did mistake. How you feel that time? Am I making sense? Yeah. So that is one part, and the second part is think of a situation also. You're not able to accept other person. We did that exercise yesterday. You're going happily in the life, and then someone did something that really puts you in a challenging situation, and that you feel very unhappy, and then you cannot accept that other person, accept the situation, and then we also wrote down certain feelings that were generated from the situation. So just these two things, like think of the situation and the feeling that was associated, that was generated because of the situation, in relation to ourselves and in relation to others. So we need to take a note of your feelings also at that frame of mind.
This is interactive. You have to and spend some time and write some things down. It's beyond information.
And also take note, remember that the feeling doesn't mean the thought. The feeling means you feel something, you feel cold, heat, happy, angry, those things. Okay, it's not just I'm good, I'm doing good, those are not, we don't have the chart, but
Give them some time to write. Mm-hmm.
Anyone need more time or? So yesterday we discussed more on in the lines of acceptance of ourselves as a spiritual beings, acceptance of other person is also a spiritual being, and also in the in general, the people have their limitations, although they have their good intentions and all that, right? So the acceptance as a spiritual and also with the material limitations, right? So this today's exercise, we're going to find out what's the need at that time, at that point of time where we are going through this challenging situation. Okay, so like behind any negative emotion, there is unmet need, right? So what was the need that was unmet when you felt that negative emotion in that situation? So basically, like what was it that we are really looking for in that particular situation, right? What was the need in the sense like what will it that will make us happy at that point? What would have happened that will make us happy, stronger, things like that. Okay, so you can just take a quick moment and see what were you needing at that time, and you can write it down there. Am I making sense about the need? You are suddenly wanting something, expecting something. Okay. Would you like to say about the chart?
What?
Needs chart, would you like to say anything about the needs? Or want me to go?
As long as you can keep it simple.
this is from.
Yeah, for those of you that did not attend the 2 retreats in Gitanagari, the previous year Memorial Weekend and this year Memorial Day weekend, the theme of both was empathic communication. Empathic communication was derived from a lifelong study of one gentleman who was renowned for nonviolent communication. Nonviolence is well known, and communication that's nonviolence is part of a life of a devotee. So we heard that system as explained by Bir Krishna Maharaj, and a very important part, essential core part of that whole lesson was understanding our needs and needs of others, and behind, let's just say it this way, behind our negative emotions is an unmet need, behind another person's negative emotion or behavior is an unmet need. It's a theme of that system. And so this is going to take us through the hierarchy of needs. Let's go back down. Let's go back down. It's a pyramid. So you go ahead and express it. Keep it really simple. This is not an attempt to redo a 2-weekend, holiday weekend seminar in 5 minutes. It's just bullet points to help you get a picture of needs. And nonviolence would mean to recognize your needs and the needs of others and try to synergize in your relationship with them one another's needs, with the ultimate need at the very top. So let's go ahead.
So in general, the first level in this pyramid is physical needs, which is like very, very basic needs: air, food, water, shelter, etc. So the way we can relate is like, we can very well see in children when they're hungry like that, they'll be very cranky, very naughty, and we can also find ourselves sometimes, when you're hungry or thirsty or not happy, then we try to get upset easily, things like that, right? So this is the first one, and the second one is recreation. Recreation it's basically a mode of goodness. Anything we do, we want to do in a happy way. That's what I understand. And then the next one is interdependence. From this, the pyramid changes a little bit. It will be with other person. This is what it means. Interdependence is acceptance. Like we want we have a need to be accepted by others. But there is also important point here that we also need to accept ourselves before expecting others or wanting to be accepted by others. So similarly with appreciation, closeness, community. So it goes both ways now. And then autonomy. None of us want to have restrictions, especially as spiritual beings, we don't want to have any restrictions. So the way we can see is like what gifts has Krishna bestowed upon you and which you would like to develop in his service. Okay. And then celebration about losses and gains. As per this empathic communication, there is not really much differentiation between loss or gain. Basically, like it's taken as an indication that says, your needs are met and you're happy, in terms of gains, and your needs are met, not met, that's what it says loss, as per the loss. So in those circumstances, usually, stay with your needs and try to fulfill. And then moving up, integrity, if you want to be creative, you have meaning and self-worth. And finally, the important need for all of us is Krishna consciousness. So, just summing up, the primary need for all of us is Krishna. So then, this is how the chart goes up. Now you can revisit your unmet need and write it down.
Is it clear to everyone what's being asked of you? Yes. Is anyone that's not clear needs it some further clarity? Good for you.
I don't understand, what is that autonomy?
You like to do stuff. And there's a need for you to be able to express yourself and do stuff that's important to you and you like to do. It's not, you're not in a vacuum, there's interdependence of, connected, and there's the goal of pleasing Krishna, but there's a need. It's just like a child growing up and becoming a young adult. This is an autonomy need. And now we're adults and we need some freedom. It's recognizing social constraints, but some ability to express that which is of great importance and meaning to you in your life. That's autonomy. It's a need, natural one. You're still pondering it. You got that look on your face.
Yeah. Because usually the meaning of autonomy, when somebody asks for, I want autonomy, meaning like,
Leave me
I don't
alone.
want anybody to interfere in my
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
I just go and do
So obviously it's not unfettered autonomy,
This is
but a degree of being able to express ourselves and live according to what's really important to us. We need that's a need. We need some freedom to move.
So that word has different meaning.
Okay, well, it's extreme. There's radical, and then there's reasonable. So this is speaking, the reasonable boundaries of autonomy. Yes, indeed.
And integrity, there is creativity, meaning. And so
Well, do you for each of us to feel, it's a big topic, that you feel worthy of this autonomy and worthy of acceptance, etc., etc., etc. There's something intrinsic within. And there's expression of that that's done in a creative manner. The role play is going to help us understand this to some, as we go along. Towards the end, actually, not this day. Integrity, just because that's the one you asked. As a leader of this community, on the one hand, you want to encourage people, be creative. And then on the other hand, there's some boundaries to that creativity. You can't just go, knock over the playground. And you think something else is better than a playground, so you just get creative. And so there's boundaries. So you want, our younger generation people, we want them to come forward, and we have to give them some space, some creativity space. And by doing that, we're not like mandating, do it like this, or forget, you're not going to get any keys around this place. We have to, so, and if we want intelligent people to come step forward, we have to give them some creative space. And you have to give them some boundaries. She's laughing.
I was reminded of the GBC college. They said, unleash the hidden potential in all the people, unleashing the hidden potential.
Well, it's not unfettered. It's the same as this thing of autonomy. It's not unfettered.
Okay.
It's guided. That's what mothers do, right? You know about being a mother. So it's what leaders do. They guide. And they, as they're unleashing, they're also guiding. That's the art of leadership. It's the art of, of relationship, the art of friendship, the art of a loving relationship with anyone, in any manner or fashion. Okay? Aligned with pleasing Krishna. All of these, the key thing is alignment. So now, back to your question. You want them to spend some time doing what?
Write down the need behind those two incidents we wrote down before, where we are not able to accept ourselves and accept other person. What were you needing at that time? Air, food, water, some recreation, some happiness, etc. Celebration, applause, gains. Want to be creative, have your self-worth, all those things. Or wanting to connect to Krishna. Anyone wants more time? Or okay. So now close your eyes.
First, take a look at the image on the left before you close your eyes. What does the image on the left show you? There we go. That's a person that's in their head. And their head is like a cage, and the cage is a bird in the cage. That's the conditioned sense of looking to others to meet your needs. That's what it looks like. That's an artist's drawing of what it looks like and feels like. Go ahead.
Yeah, so as Maharaj is telling, visualize that yourself as a bird in a cage, and the cage, each of those, the strings are like, the needs that you're wanting those to be fulfilled by others. Okay? So you have a certain need, and that is like one of the, the cage or, and similarly you bond with number of needs. Try to visualize yourself within that cage, expecting others to fulfill the needs, multiple needs you have from yourself and from others. How does it feel to you? Does it feel disempowering in any way? Okay. So now, imagine that cage gate is open, and look at yourself and others in perspective of being spirit souls. This doesn't mean that the needs are negated, but we want to see we ourselves and others as in perspective spirit souls in such a way that it will allow freedom to function for both parties. So at this point, I will ask Shatrupa to add something. She has more insight on this.
So, like we visualized ourselves being inside a cage and expecting others to fulfill our needs. We are waiting there, looking for whoever walks around that cage. This person will come and do it, that person will come and do it. Oh, this is the person. So we don't feel complete because we are just waiting for somebody else to make us complete. So when we come out of that box and then see that I am a person, a whole person like Krishna. Krishna's part and parcels are whole, like Purnam. In the same way, the other person is also a complete person. And our incompleteness is within our heart. The needs that we have inside of us can be understood and addressed by ourselves much better, or that's the way that we can address them. And like the previous slide, how we saw that all the needs can be geared towards Krishna. So when we identify the need and sit with it and leave the door open to just move on towards Krishna, then it gives more completeness in addressing our needs than expecting somebody else actually to come and fill it. So basically it's taking responsibility for ourselves rather than putting the responsibility on somebody else's head where they probably don't even know what our needs are. So that was the idea behind this cage, sitting inside and coming out, going towards Krishna.
So now, quickly take a minute, close your eyes and, just think about the lines of this open cage and see how it feels to you. So do you see change of feelings at this point? Anyone have any thoughts, any sharings? Yes.
Well, feeling of freedom.
Feeling of freedom. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? So we'll move on. Oh yeah. So now we can see ourselves how vision changes from non-acceptance to acceptance and respect and service. And and see that Dhruva Maharaj also faced this violence, but his response completely changed from retaliation to service after sacrifices.
Going back to the professor rule here. I'll back up a little bit more, actually. The Ahimsa, or the non-violence value of Gita and the Bhagavatam, is connected to what we discussed yesterday evening, the Samadarshan, or seeing as spirit soul. We had some teachings, we had some exercises related to seeing one another as the soul within, and within that soul is a person very much like us, etc. So by seeing others equally as spirit soul that situated within, that was interesting. It gives us the capacity to interact, because this is now interactive, where you're being nonviolent towards yourself and nonviolent in your interactions with others. It's resting upon a spiritual conception. That's the main point. So, with the message, the Bhagavatam is taking the message and presenting it in the form of a history. There's the concept, Bhagavad Gita. There's the example of it in the Bhagavatam. That's Purana, it's history. So Dhruva Maharaj was facing violence, those three ways that we saw. However, by the intervention of Narada, how he responded to that violence changed. He took the spiritual perspective by Narada's influence, also his kind mother's influence, because what he wanted was like child's play. But with Narada's influence, he went from wants to get back to wanted to be in service to Vishnu. So full self-realization of our spiritual nature is to become connected to the real us. Non-violence is possible if you have a true spiritual conception of yourself. And in that spiritual conception of yourself, you have a body and you have a mind that have body and mind needs. That was that pyramid of needs, physical and so forth. To meet those needs, you'll be feeling incomplete unless you have a spiritual conception of yourself and a spiritual connection with Krishna, who is the source of fulfilling all your needs. That connection is important. And then let that connection be the primary means that you have to address your needs. It doesn't mean that the interpersonal part, your family members and the community members and other people in the world, you just dismiss them. It's just you and Krishna and Haribol with everybody else. Not like that. We're social beings, and so there are social needs, interpersonal social needs as well. Naturally so. Appropriately so. But we require this full realization of our spiritual nature, and then we're connected to who we really are. Back to that iceberg example, that's the bottom of the iceberg. Who we really are. I'm tempted to tell a little story. I had a really nice experience during one particular visit in China, which I've shared a lot. It relates to this image. I'll try to do it quickly. I was invited to go to Chengdu. The only person I know who knows where that place is Radharman, because he's a travel agent. It's a city in China. I had never been there. I went there because there was a devotee who had completed their Bhakti Shastri. They were teaching Bhagavad Gita to their yoga studio staff, 35 people. And then the yoga studio owner wanted me to come, so I went to Chengdu and gave 3 classes to their staff. And there was a really nice connection with the staff, the owner. The owner was a lady in her late 30s, early 40s, something like that. And just the nature of the questions and answers and the interaction there was a really good connection. So she wanted to meet afterwards, so with a translator there, and she said, ever since I was a little girl, and she put her, ever since I was a little girl, I've had this sense that there's a mission in my life. And I wanted to connect with that mission in life. And some people said, do really well in school. And it'll help you fulfill and find out your mission in life. So I did really well in school as a top student. And then after some time I realized that's not my mission in life. So somebody said, oh, you're so smart. Why don't you make a lot of money? Because if you make a lot of money, it'll help you fulfill your mission in life. So I made a lot of money. And then I realized that's not my mission in life, making money. And then somebody said, well, of course not, because you have to be a leader amongst people and help other people be successful like that. So I became a leader in so many ways, and after some time, being a leader is my mission in life. And somebody then said, of course you're not feeling satisfied because you have to serve people. So I've been in this mood of helping people and serving people, and it's nice, but something's missing. Something's missing. I'm not connecting with my mission in life. Basically, like, what's next? Where do I go from here? So then my turn to speak. So I said, there are certain characteristics that just from our interaction in the last few days, I can see that it's part of your nature. And what you've just expressed to me just now, you found lots of things that it's not who you are. What you really, next thing is, who are you really? The bottom of the iceberg. Because she was trying on different values to see if they fit. And she just wasn't really fully comfortable with those as the mission of life, because they're values. So, the message wasn't scrap being a leader and scrap helping people and scrap making money. It wasn't any of that. Or stop being a smart lady. You're a smart lady. You're an educator. You like to receive and give to other people. That's your nature. But who are you? Really. So you're trying, over here is somebody that understands Bhagavad Gita. They're a teacher of Bhagavad Gita. Study from them. And you'll find, you keep doing all the things that you're doing, and you'll find out who you really are. You'll get closer to that. There's things that come after that. But just do that for now. It'll help you connect with your mission in life. Know who you are. So, to become connected to the real us, this, the soul within, we have a package, and our package is different than everybody else's. The soul is different than everybody else's, and that's just fine. It's beautiful. It's natural, and it's fantastic. But to connect with who you really are, that's our spiritual nature, and then the body and the mind and the emotions and everything can become spiritualized. And then we'll feel fulfilled. We'll feel complete, like what Shatruppa was saying. As she was speaking, I was thinking of Shel Silverstein's The Missing Piece in the Big O. That's what I was thinking. You know that story? It's a child's story for adults. It's a nice story. I'll do it sometime with you. The conclusion of it is everything that you need is within. And of course, what's missing in the Shel Silverstein story is connecting with Krishna. That's the part that makes the real completeness. Same with Vyas. We know from the Bhagavatam, he did all this wonderful work for the benefit of everybody, and he was still feeling incomplete because he didn't make sufficient connection with the personality of Godhead. That was Narada's instruction, and then came the Bhagavatam. And that's what we're supposed to connect with, is the divine nature. Is like, this is for a Chinese audience. I mean, the Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for us, the divine nature for China people, in capital letters. Real us is, so that's the Bhagavatam's message. The sense of completeness is the awakening of our spiritual consciousness. And then we can have human interactions, not just human, all species of life interactions, where there's respect and the act of non-violence, not just not hurting others, not stepping on ants or whatever, or killing animals, but relieving people of ignorance, and that you have to be relieved of ignorance before you can. It's just like this lady in Chengdu. You can't fulfill your mission in life unless you know who you are. Anyway. Once connected that way, this is the Bhagavad Gita verse that we saw a couple of times. We're going to see it a few more times as we go along. This is the Samadarshana verse of Bhagavad Gita. Where's that little boy that knew the verse? He's upstairs. There's a little 6-year-old boy that knows the verse. Vidyavanaya sampane brahmani gavihastani shuni chaiva sapaki cha pandita samadarshana pandita samadarshana. So the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and this really dangerous looking fellow, dog eater. So that's equal vision. That's, differences are recognized, and the sameness is also recognized. Different behaviors according to different positions, but samadarshana. And then when that spiritual consciousness is awakened, then one knows how to behave in this proper manner of equanimity or nonviolence. So this is a concentric circle diagram. Nonviolence starts within, self and the immediate family. It extends out to community and the society around you, nation and humanity, and to all species of life. We have some skits to do, but it's late. I want to share one thing, and then I'll stop. Did you know that Albert Einstein was a big proponent of this message? When you think of Albert Einstein, when I think of Albert Einstein, I think of somebody there's no boundaries to his freedom of thought, intellectual expansion. So in his own words, what's needed is to expand compassion beyond the limits, even to all existence. You want to have freedom you want to feel free, like somebody spoke, I feel some sense of freedom. Listen to Albert Einstein. I mean, he wasn't a Krishna Bhakta, but he understood there's divinity beyond all things that you can reason, and all the other things that he came up with, gosh, I don't even know what they are. But the freedom of thought and freedom of intellect and freedom of your inner being, it depends on this principle. That's the value of Bhagavad Gita. It'll help you get there at least. Move in that direction. The sense of freedom in whatever it is that the gift that Krishna has given to you and its expression. That's this creative self-expression, self-worth. It's up there. It's an important need. So we're ready for our facilitator.
Okay. So now we're going to have a demonstration, how to really put into practical. We have accepted spiritual self and also aware that there were limitations. So this demonstration is going to be on effective communication versus harsh communication. And in harsh communication, there are like 4 Ds. I mean, I think most of you who attended Gitanagari knows what these 4 Ds are, right? So can anyone quickly say an example for deserve? For others who did not attend may get benefited. Deserve,
You deserve to suffer.
you deserve to suffer. Any more examples? You really deserve it. You really deserve the bad reaction, or I really deserve a good promotion. I deserve that nice treatment. All these things. Okay. And the diagnosis.
You're silly.
Huh? You are silly. Labeling, judgment, right? Any more examples on the diagnosis? Diagnose. And then demand is straightforward. And the denial of responsibility is a nice one. Anyone would like to give an example of denial of responsibility?
Holding someone else accountable for your emotions.
Holding someone else accountable for one's own emotions. Basically saying like you
You made me.
or basically it's you, right?
But like I'm not supposed to do this anyway.
You're not supposed to do this anyway. In that way of saying. Okay? So in this harsh communication, these 4 Ds will be there prominently. So we're going to have a skit between a wife and husband. How this harsh communication goes around. That will be demonstrated by Sunita Mataji and Lingaji Prabhu. We have the space there. Yeah. And we'll move a little bit beyond this.
Someone recording it?
Did you cook today?
Two people might not.
You're always slacking. Just give me 1 second. We'll get 2 microphones. Just before that, we're going to have quiz on this, which part comes into deserve, which part is going to come into diagnose the demand. So just,
Pay
it's
attention.
something to pay attention.
Did you cook today?
No idea.
You always slack off.
I don't know. Today I don't want to cook, so that's why.
So do you remember your duty is to serve me? And we had a Vedic marriage. That is your responsibility.
Vedic marriage? So Vedic marriage means you mean that I want to be like a Sita? What? If you want me to be like Sita, then you have to be like Rama.
So you're always criticizing.
You're always judgmental.
Don't we have to do all the things that we don't like to do? See, I don't like to go to work, but still I do. And you are always like your mother. You don't want to do.
Why you are bringing my mother in between? My mother, I think she taught me so many things to serve husband, but that doesn't mean like I have to cook every day.
You're too sensitive.
I think that's too judgmental for me always.
So, so did you recognize any of the components of the harsh communication?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Which term did you say? Diagnosis. Which part did you say?
All the judgmental parts.
Judgmental part.
All the parts where the husband was judgmental of the wife.
Husband was judgmental of the wife. What else?
I see that.
Deserves to be served. Balram Prabhu, you were saying something?
Husband is demanding wife.
Husband is demanding.
Wife is denying responsibility.
Wife is denying responsibility. What else? No, he's not. No,
Prabhu is saying that he deserves prasadam.
deserves prasadam. That's the easy one. Right? Deserves prasadam. That's a very subtle one. Anything more? Okay, so now we will go into the effective communication or a non-violent communication. Non-violent communication will have these 4 things. The first one is observation. Observation really means observation, right? That's it. You're seeing, you're seeing whatever you're seeing. It's whatever that is. There is no judgmental things added, no labels added, no diagnosis, any of those things. Okay? Observation, and then there is a feelings. What feelings one is having, and what was the needs, and when you find these needs, then how do you make the request? Right? It's really a request again. No demand attached to it in any ways. Okay.
Smita, are you able to cook today?
Yeah, I think so. I can cook today.
Did you already made it or?
No, actually the whole night I didn't sleep because Anirudh was not feeling well.
Oh.
I'm too exhausted.
Oh, sounds like you might have had a busy day last night.
Yeah. So I can do one thing. Just take him out. I can just cook something and we can have nice prasadam.
Okay, yeah, I'm very sorry to hear that. So I will. Are you feeling very overwhelmed? Right. So I will do that and then.
Yeah. Thank you for understanding me.
Yeah, thank you for. I understand that it's very difficult to take care of 2 children when I'm out of town. Thank you so much for all the work that you do.
So, what are all the 4 things here? Like, what? Which part is observation? Yeah. Request. What's the request?
That we should take Anirudh out.
Would you be able to take Anirudh out for some time? Then I can do it. Excellent. What else? Need. Who said need? Oh, yeah.
Husband is understanding the wife's need.
Husband understanding then wife's need.
And wife understand husband's need of food.
Wife also
Physical.
understand the husband needs food. Okay. Okay. Thank you. And now we will have, demonstration between a teenage daughter and lovely father. Demonstrated by Balram Prasad Prabhu and Hemangi.
I don't want to go to school today.
What? You have to. You must go to school. You're to become a doctor.
But I don't want to become a doctor. I can't stand the sight of blood and wounds.
I don't care what I can or cannot stand the sight of. You must become a doctor. Do you know how much money I spent on your private school? And my God, how much money? Too much money. All hard works. You don't understand that part.
Well, I guess it must not be in your karma to have a perfect daughter than mom.
Do you know how much struggle I have go through to make ends meet every month? I don't want to see you struggling this way.
Why are you so materialistic? Why don't you practice what you preach?
Yeah, it's easy to shun money as materialistic when everything is provided you to on a silver platter.
But why do I have to be a doctor? Why do I have to slog like a donkey? I can do something simple. I can be an artist. I don't have to go to a gifted private school for that.
Artist? That's not a profession. It's a hobby for the rich. What will my family say if you become an artist? What will the Patel say? Log kya kahenge?
Mom, Dad, you just don't understand anything. I don't want to speak to you anymore.
Quick reflections on the 4 days.
Daughter saying the dad is materialistic.
Dad is materialistic. What is that comment? Diagnose. What else? You're saying, Mati?
Demanding to be doctor.
Demanding to be a doctor. What was it? Sir, language?
Denial not to become doctor.
Denial?
Not to become doctor.
Denial of responsibility.
Not going to school.
Not going to school. Okay, now we will see the empathic communication or effective communication demonstration.
I don't want to go to school.
You don't want to go to school? Would you please share why?
You wouldn't understand. Never mind. I'm not going. That's all.
I would really like to try to understand what's going on for you.
I just don't fit in.
That must be tough. Could you please be more specific about you did not fit in?
I'm not the same as others. I'm so different. They party. They cuss. They say I dress like a grandma from the 60s. Someone asked me why I wear a kanti mala. I laughed at my explanation. I'm a total misfit.
It sounds like a real tough situation to be in. Are you feeling sad because you don't belong and you are not accepted?
I guess so, but I really don't hate school. It's just tough to deal with others sometimes. I'll get over it.
I'm so happy to hear that. I was concerned when you said that you want to quit school. As a dad, I want to look after your welfare and care about your future. So please feel free to let me know if there is anything I can help you.
So there is something special happened here in this conversation. Did anyone take note of it?
Yeah.
So daughter is having problem. Yes, problem.
Father is being very empathetic to
Father is being very empathic. What else?
They're also listening to each other.
They're also listening to each other.
It looked like the solution was coming from daughter.
Yeah. So the solution, came from daughter herself. Prabhu did not say anything. You should do this. You should not do this. Just by empathy, by listening, you know, she herself came to a solution. Right? Anything else you want to add? Share? Okay. Yeah,
Just wanted to be heard.
just want to be heard. Everyone's need accepted. Okay, now we will have a favorite one in relation to our temple service. So this is a conversation between a younger devotee and an older devotee. So older devotee is asking to volunteer something. So this is what? Who is younger? I'll be role playing the older, she will role playing the younger. Okay. So Vishnudas is sick today. Shatrupa, can you cook the festival feast today?
No, I have to chant all my rounds.
Oh, you're such a rascal. When you needed your visa sponsored, you were willing to do anything, even to move to Naperville. And now it takes you all day to chant your 16 rounds. If you just woke up at 4 o'clock, like all the devotees do, you would not still have your rounds to chant at noon. You're in Maya.
And what about you? You don't even have Bhagavad Gita 1866 memorized. And you call yourself a devotee? Besides, you should learn how to staff the temple properly. You're overburdening us all.
This is a quick demonstration of the hash communication. Any quick insights on these four things?
Quick to diagnose.
Diagnose.
Demanding.
Demanding.
that you have to cook.
Demanding how to cook. A lot of diagnosis there. Okay. So now we'll have empathic way of the same situation, same conversation. So Vishnudas is sick today. Shatrupa, would you please consider cooking the festival feast today?
No, I have to chant my rounds.
You need to chant your rounds. Wonderful. I hear that you need for spiritual advancement and to uphold the vow you made to your spiritual master.
Yeah, I've been so busy preparing for Balaram Jayanti, buying flowers and decorating the altar, planning for Abhishek. I slept at 1 o'clock last night. I wasn't able to wake up early today. I tried. So I have all my 16 rounds remaining.
I very much appreciate all that you do in the puja department. Actually, I want to thank you so much for the fantastic darshan today. All that hard work you put in last night into flower decoration is really evident from the altar, from how the altar looks today.
Thank you. I sometimes feel like no one even notices something I do.
Are you feeling sad because you have need for appreciation? I know I could be better at appreciating devotee service. I truly notice the amount of effort you put in.
Thank you. You know what? I need only 2 hours to chant. If you can find someone to cut vegetables for the next 2 hours, I can chant and then cook.
That's really, but you must be tired from the late night yesterday.
No, I slept over anyway this morning. Give me 2 hours. I want to chant and then I'll be back.
Okay, that's great. I'll get a team together to cut vegetables, but only you can be the main chef, so it's another one of your special gifts from Krishna. So that's all about the magic about the empathy communication and also magic about the harsh communication. Hare Krishna.
You're done. It's a little hard to compress 16 hours into an hour. This topic of empathy or ahimsa, nonviolence, it's a big topic. And to describe it notionally, that's one thing, the information part. Then to integrate the message into practice, it's a big exercise. I was just hearing Srila Prabhupada speak about it today. I mean, a recording. And he was saying similar points. That is, the notion that we're spirit soul is one thing, but then it's incomplete without living a life of devotion where Krishna is to be pleased. So this value of nonviolence or empathy, empathic communication, is not an end unto itself. The end unto itself, that is, this alignment principle that will keep us moving in that direction, is that Krishna is to be pleased. Values, I'm just speaking now on the concept of values affect behaviors, and behaviors have some interactive effect upon values, but it's incomplete, it's all incomplete. It remains notional unless the bhakti factor enters, that is, making our spiritual connection with the personality of Godhead Krishna. So how to convey all that in the 1 hour time that we have? Good luck.
But we are getting some glimpse of it.
Yeah, you're getting some idea. So, as I said yesterday, there's some overlap. This Memorial Weekend message is heard this evening. Those of you that are reading the Bhagavatam, as the group of those 35 of you that are reading regularly the Srimad Bhagavatam, the picture starts to get clearer and clearer as you go along by hearing. Again, I was hearing Prabhupada. He was in Hyderabad, speaking to it, obviously, an Indian audience, saying, gesturing over here, you see these American European disciples. They didn't know anything, but by hearing again and hearing again and hearing again, they came to accept, yes, I'm spirit soul, I'm part of it, but it's because it's innate, and by hearing it again and again, now they're living their life in an exemplary fashion. Similarly, hearing again and again the message of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and connecting with that message with our practical lives. These values help us guide our life towards that transformation where we want to go, Krishna consciousness. We'll try to continue tomorrow evening, see what happens. So, does anybody here not have what those 6 Bhagavatam values are, the handout sheet, the printed copy? Do you have any printed copies? If you would like a printed copy, right up here on top of the projector, just set it on, come forward at the end and you pick up a copy. And digital copies were sent out, so it will help the presenters and the professor and the facilitator team. If you read and just get a sense of what these values are, then it'll help the exercise tomorrow. We'll try to do a little tighter job tomorrow, a little spread out, I feel, this evening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.